Hello, Scorpio. It's Nicholas Ashbaugh. Welcome to your 2-month forecast. This is going to help you navigate through the months of September and October. And as always, you can use it for Sun, Rising, Moon, and Venus. Let's take a quick check on Apollo, who is sound asleep. We'll give him a little pat on the head. Hey, buddy. Yes. Let's get into your channeled messages for today. I picked up on two things. The first one was really cool the way that Spirit showed it to me. I saw two people, you and someone else, a third figure in the background, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But the two main people, what I was shown first was a pattern. And Spirit said they're cut from the same cloth, meaning that they're similar. And so just like you would kind of cut a pattern out and it's the same material, it's the same sort of energy, I saw that. And what I got from that was passionate and a little stubborn. So I'll be honest with what I was picking up on. And then the connection felt very, very close. So this could be brother, sister, or cousin, or someone in your life that feels so close that they might as well be blood. So chosen family, that kind of a bond. I got that there was this long period of time where there was nothing wrong, and one incident, I think it was a misunderstanding, and there's some hurt feelings, but it wasn't addressed at the time. It was kind of smoothed over, but you know how certain plants outside or weeds have roots. The roots are still there. And over this 60-day period, something might pop through to the surface. And there's it's like an argument over nothing, but the passion came back, the anger came back. So if there's someone in your life where you just decided at the time, I'm going to ignore that or I'm going to walk away from it. I think we've all had this from time to time. If you have to interact with them over this 2-month period, it's going to be important to either internally on your own resolve this to the best of your capacity, or, and this is where the third party came in, maybe you work with a therapist. If it is someone that's really close and a family member, maybe you can both talk to someone, or there can be a neutral party. It felt like it could also be a friend or family member that keeps the peace. So if you have that heart to heart and you apologize or whatever and things get heated, that person can step in and say, hey, I think we're trying to resolve this. So it's up to you how you want to handle that, but that's what I was picking up on. And maybe just avoid that person if you feel that, or walk away. Don't let the argument get heated. It had nothing to do with the current conversation. It had everything to do with the past. And so that wound from the past has to be dealt with first. If you're in a good space and you don't feel that familial wound, this could just be the inner child, because it could be just another version of you that I was seeing. And that earlier version, that younger version, there was a disappointment or a setback and it still hurt. And in order to receive love, abundance, and opportunity, which does want to come through, which is why I was shown this, you want to work on your own. And then so you could just be talking to a friend, talking to a therapist, working with your own emotions and saying, I'm going to let this go. The pain isn't helping me anymore. It's not teaching me. It's just kind of anchoring me. Oftentimes with that kind of an old wound, that's when you do need some sort of a counselor or a therapist. So maybe a couple of people you might work with on that. And then just working on your general self-confidence, giving yourself more credit for things, okay? So that was the first really powerful message, was some healing either within or perhaps in a very close relationship. Here's the other thing that I saw, which was that it's okay to realize that you want something else. So it was very kind of like theatrical, what I was being shown, almost like it was a projection. So one way we could look at this is like a holograph or something, like, Star Trek has a holodeck, or like an old-fashioned film projector where it's projecting on the wall. And what you realized is fantasy and reality didn't align and you wanted to take a new direction or a new path, which is perfectly okay. So there's this awakening that maybe you've done everything that you wanted or needed on a certain path, and now it's time to go in a new direction, to to embrace, that's a better word, embrace a new dream. And as I look at this 60-day period, we'll look for those situations that we talked about. Are there any relationship clashes that are coming through? Are there any windows of opportunity? Is there any sort of revelation, like a tower or a judgment or a justice moment where you're seeing, or even a devil moment where it's like, oh, I see what I want, I see what I don't want. I really feel like you have a powerful 2 months in front of you, so let's not waste any time. Let's get started. All right, please take a moment, close your eyes, Imagine a circle of white light around your body. Let's set the intention that you are safe, protected, and connected to Source, and invite in angels, spirit guides, and ascended masters. All right, let's get started. All right, let's begin with your catalyst. You received the rune Nauthiz, and this is a super powerful symbol. It comes through in a period where you feel like you need that spark of passion, that light, that energy the most. And a lot of times this is associated with the cold, the dark, the unknown. And I think of it almost as if like it's the hermit with the lantern, right? So if you research this a little bit too, it can represent the spark that happens when you create fire. So if you're in a place in your life where there's not enough, or where it's just necessary to find a way to make it work, this, my friend, is exactly that. We even see necessity as the first word. So sometimes when you have no choice but to succeed, or no choice but to find a way, you figure it out. And then we have willpower here. If you set your mind to something this month, that spark will happen. And you've always had it. It's just a matter of accessing it, trusting it, and continuing to feed that flame. So you've got this. That's the main thing that I'm getting from this. But whenever you need to meditate on your inner power, think of the hermit holding the lantern and saying, I'm going to be the voice of reason. I'm going to light the way. And even if everyone else is in the dark, I'm not afraid because I've done the work. And I've done it before in the past, maybe a past lifetime. I just have this inner trust that's going to lead this torch and this fire. That's going to bring you to a successful outcome. So we'll intermittently come back to that card as necessary, but it's a hidden power. That's what I see. That comes out when it's most needed. And so that means that you are set up for success over this 2-month period. And there will be a few tests. So let's start. We're going to talk about all the cards that are in front of us here. Okay, if you're new to this layout, here's how it's organized. This is the month of September. This is the month of October, past, present, and future in both of those 3 card sets. Then we have the karmic or past energy, and then the destiny here. Takeaways for the 2 months, a card that connects, a card that blocks, and we just talked about the catalyst. So let's get into the karma first and foremost. In the karma, which is your deep past, possibly even in previous lifetimes, what we have here is devil energy in reverse. Let's look at a different version of the card and celebrate the fact that this came through reversed. If it's upright, we can see that this version of the devil is kind of like a puppet master, and it's holding someone or controlling someone, and there's this lack of free will. We come to this planet with free will, and there's a reminder that you can always say no. You can always cut the cords. You can always break the contract, or try to break the contract at least. There's a little bit of a struggle, but it's worth it. And that is the takeaway here. Whatever you need to do to clear this anchor, do it. This can represent an addiction. It can represent a limiting thought. I can't do it. Let's get rid of stuff like that. Just ask yourself, how can I do it? It can also represent someone or something that can't give you what you need or deserve. So you might be in a relationship where someone doesn't want to commit, or they're already connected to someone else and they don't get untangled from that relationship. So you're always a third wheel. In a job or sort of like learning situation, you may have a sort of glass ceiling. You can only go so far. Someone or something can't give you what you need. So what's nice about where this appears in the spread is karmically, you know where it's at and you're ready to move on. There's a little bit of, you've watched my channel enough to know that I say the 7 of Swords is one of the allies of the devil. Usually 5 of Swords follows, or the moon. Those are the 4 cards that kind of work together. And we got 3 out of the 4 here. So The good news is everything over here is pretty good. So just a little bit of work to do here. So let's move on to the next card here, and this is going to kick off our first month that we're looking at, which is September. The Seven of Swords in reverse is basically your ability to see beyond deception. Let's look at the traditional version of it because I think it helps. So here's your traditional Rider-Waite-Smith card, and we see someone that historically might have been able to get away with something. And this month, you see it for what it is. And if you want to, you can create a boundary and say no or stop. You also might just have a getting real moment with someone, real talk, and just say, let's cut to the chase. Let's really get to the bottom of this because I think what you mean is this. And there is this sense of being seen from the other side. The devil doesn't like it when you're able to see through the veneer or through the mirage, and it looks like you're able to do that. And that's good. Be prepared for someone to be surprised and just in that moment say, okay, that's what I thought. Don't do it again. Or you could just say, we're done. Because honestly, whenever you're working with that kind of energy, it has a way of repeating itself. It's cyclical. So this can be your indication that not only is it okay, but it's advisable to move away from that person, place, or environment. This is also the universe saying, be accountable to yourself. If there's a change that you want to make in your life, the only time that it's going to stick is when you're finally resolved that you're done with it, that the cost of doing something or being with someone or thinking a certain way is greater than whatever short-term reward or pleasure it's giving you. So again, especially when it comes to addictions or things that are unhealthy, there is a point where they cost too much, either in your health or in your money, and then you're like, okay, I got to move forward. Here are ways that you can combat the Seven of Swords. Honesty, transparency, and clarity, because this is a card that lacks all of those things. Don't let one distraction take your attention from another one. So sometimes a person will redirect your energy with a smoke screen, and so you want to also make sure you're kind of going to address both of them. Say, yes, we should talk about that, but first this. Let's not get distracted. That is you and your power. That is you choosing wisely, and that's the big message with respect to this. It's in the past, folks. Literally, that's what this says. But it's coming back right now as a test because there's been a cyclical habit sometimes to let it slide. So this month, you're going to address it. You know, that relationship that I was talking about, the Seven of Swords can definitely be something like that, where a person has a habit or a way of just sort of like acting up or doing things, and maybe you just kept the peace, but there comes a point where you can't keep the peace anymore, and it's okay. All right, let's move on. The energy of the present is so much better. So again, we're looking at September. The overarching energy in the present of September is the Eight of Wands, and I love this. You look at a more traditional illustration, it's just a bunch of wands flying through the air at once. This one tells the story actually better. Right under my finger there, you see a beautiful bee. We have a hummingbird off to the side. This represents productivity, pollination, movement, and there's a chance to be a leader in this as well. And one thing that I like about this that gets lost in that previous card that I just showed you, like this version of it, is that you don't know where all of the people are. Here we can see they're busy working. You're part of something bigger. Don't forget to check in with everyone. If you need help, raise your hand, ask. But as you can see with respect to this, there can be a lot that is done, and it's just the tip of the iceberg because all of that pollination that's happening means that there's going to be seeds, and then those are going to bring you the next sort of generation of opportunities. So we're seeing something that's sustainable. So you're able to break through a challenging situation, maybe break free from a person or an environment or a job, to identify patterns that haven't served you before and stop them, to be more accountable both to yourself and to others. And by doing so, you become a force to be reckoned with. You attract higher frequency people. And you can't get much higher frequency than the bees and especially the hummingbird. They actually make high frequency sounds, they move quickly, and they're very positive symbols. They basically show movement, abundance, and fertility. And also something sweet, when I'm thinking of the honeybees, something sweet awaits you after that challenging, after that bitter moment. The universe is all about balance, light and dark, bitter and sweet. Now it's time for the sweet. Get ready for that. And that's a really great sort of mantra. I'm ready for the sweet, because you've definitely done the work. I can see it. There's going to be a little bit of PTSD with this, though. It hurts to go through these moments, but better days await. All right, let's take a look at the future. There's work to be done. Not everyone is ready to do the same amount of work as you. So we just saw that you have the capacity to attract people on the same frequency. There still may be some roadblocks along the way. What I would say with this is avoid unnecessary conflict. This also goes back to that person that was arguing over something that wasn't really an issue. So there may be a surface issue that has nothing to do with what's beneath the surface. So you either resolve that root issue or you move beyond it because they're still stuck and they don't want to talk to you and they don't want to be accountable. So make a choice with that. If there's a lot of competition, a lot of people just talking over each other, establishing rules of engagement. This can be at work, but it can also be in a relationship. Making sure that both parties are being heard and seen and that there is mutual respect. This is just a lot of noise. Now, what I do like about this is if something isn't right, power in numbers. So we see picketers here. Sometimes you have to cause a little bit of noise and a little bit of, it's not chaos because this is organized. You have to get organized and you have to create some noise. That's basically what this is. So don't feel like you have to do this all on your own. Get the group to kind of help you out with this, and together you're stronger. But one thing that I do see with this is there's still a lot of differing opinions. So in order to have the powers that be listen, you really need to kind of like get things organized into a top 3 list of whatever it is that you want changed. This is particularly if you're looking at something in like a work environment, or even if you're trying to change a law or something like that. It has to be something that everyone can wrap their heads around. So there needs to still be some organization and some work done there. If you can avoid unnecessary conflict, please do, but you can't always avoid it. All right, let's take a look at your takeaway card for the month of September. Ultimately, it's very good. So we have the 4 of Wands here, and it's a crossroads. And in the middle of this crossroads, when you choose your path, that's when you attract the person or the opportunity that's in the same resonance as you. So this version of the 4 of Wands asks you, where is it that you want to go? And it's connected to this. It's connected to the inner flame that we talked about, because your flame is also that attractive force. When people see your passion, your insight, and your capacity also to light a path, that's when they come through. Before moving on, here's your traditional version of the card. What you can see is the stage is set and the people are in the background. So when you build it, they will come. You have to first create your path, your platform, your vision, and then trust that people come into that rather than chasing after someone else's dream or someone else's vision. This is a really good foundational card for friendships, partnerships, and all alliances overall. And that's why we saw these high frequency energies here. Even when there's people that have dissenting views or opinion, you can sometimes organize them. And I saw that even in the 5 of Wands. Find the common goal, find the common interest. All right, let's move it to the center here. We're going to start off with the connection. This is what's bringing the 2 months, September and October, together. So things are starting to flow in your direction. We have the Knight of Cups here. The Knight of Cups has taken a break from riding on his horse, and he's tuning in. And he's saying, I'm ready to receive love, abundance, opportunity, etc., in the highest forms. And let things come through that surpass your expectations. You just set the stage. We talked about this. Hopefully in September, by cleaning up the cobwebs that were the Devil and the 7 of Swords, you start to call in the energy that is the 4 of Wands, something better. And here's what we see. A water sign could be coming through. This, of course, can represent you being the ultimate here, but you could also connect with someone else that's in the same resonance, that might be in the same element, a fellow water sign. And you could also just move something that you're passionate about to the next level, because knights fight for what they want. And this is a very passionate, creative, and empathic card. And it represents the ability to give and receive and to make an impact. And it is upright. Suffice it to say, there's something magical about the space between the 2 months, the very last week of September, the very first week of October, where things start to coalesce. before we move into October, let's take a look at your potential block that is coming between these 2 months. So it is not a great surprise here that we have the moon because, like I said, the devil, the seven of swords, and the moon tend to work together. The moon has a slightly different nuance though. What we see here is something coming to the surface, something that you thought was buried or thought that was resolved, much like my vision was showing me, but it's coming back. So know that the present situation was just a trigger or a catalyst for that, but there's something deeper. And I do feel like, again, if we look back at what I talked about earlier, that there's some stubbornness or similarity in approach where both of you want the same thing, but you're going about it from a different perspective. So if you can see the common need or want, you can maybe make peace with where you're at and meet in the middle. So on either side of this card, we have a dog and a wolf. Typically there's a path. The path is just a little further back in this version of it. So the middle ground is where progress can be made and where you can walk towards the path of illumination. But first, you have to go into the depths of whatever it is that you buried, bring it to the surface and say, let's have a chat. Let's talk about this. The block could also simply be a fear. There might also be something more than what you thought, because I mentioned that there was a projection where you were looking at it now through a different lens and thought, oh, it's not what I thought it would be. And that doesn't have to mean that you're disappointed. It now just means that you're informed. And you can take that other path. And here we just have the 2 different lotus blossoms. There's always a choice or 2, and then there's a path beyond it, which is the moon itself. So it feels like you're just ready to move on. Clean up the mess, clean up the karma, clean up that emotional sort of stuff that I was picking up on so that you can embrace all of the good stuff that we're going to look at next. So just to help us orient, now we're going to take a look at the energy of October, and we're going to start off first with where you're at. So it does feel like you'll get to that resolution. So for October, the energy of the past, we have judgment. Judgment is resurrection. Judgment is the ability to rise up and move beyond a block or a version of yourself that no longer feels right. So here we have souls rising up from the dead. Answering the call, too, is another big part of this. So if you have been waiting for a moment in your life to do what you want, sometimes we think to ourselves, well, at this age, I'll do this, or after I have kids, or after I get married, or after I get this job. What we start to realize is you never know when some of these milestones are going to hit. It's now. So this can be a wake-up call. We have a little tiny kid in the corner in the spotlight. So that's the rebirth. That's the moment where you're like, what am I waiting for? There is a call to action. It's been with you for a minute or 2. That's why this is in the past energy of October. And so now it's time to step into it. Judgment can also represent this feeling of disbelief, like, is this really happening? And Spirit's coming through emphatically saying, not only is it happening, but you can really enjoy this moment if you surrender. I'm going to pull another version of the card while we're talking. But the disbelief is going to be the biggest challenge for some of you, because if you can't see it, how am I going to be able to see it? How is someone else going to be able to see it? Here's yet another version of judgment where she's embracing it. She's saying, let's do it. Let's go for it. This is who I am. Take me or leave me. And look how free the other version of herself looks, untethered. It's also antithetical, meaning it's the opposite of this, feeling like you're controlled. So in this card, we have someone that's pulling the strings. And in this one, you're bouncing out of your body, out of your situation and saying, you know what? I got this. And to me, that's pretty exciting. This can also be a moment where you announce something and you say, because when you think of like a justice or a judge, they give the verdict. They say what it is. That's what we see here as an announcement. So if you're waiting for the moment to say, I want this, or I'm doing this, by the time the beginning of October rolls around, it's time. I mentioned even the end of September could be magical. That liminal space brought us this lovely Knight of Cups. You're not alone either. We have 3 different community cards. I love the 8 of Wands. This is people in the same frequency. The 4 of Wands is about what's going to happen shortly down the road here. And the 5 of Wands shows that there might be some people that are just too busy to help, but you have choices here. And that can also help you pull this into or breathe this into fruition. Now let's move into the presenting energy for October. It's inviting you to think outside of the box, and it's actually saying you're only as stuck as your thinking process. I'll pull the traditional Eight of Swords here. So if we look at this version of the Eight of Swords, you see blindfolds. But even in this one, she could kind of work herself loose and move forward if she wanted to. And in this particular illustration, I love that it's a bird. There is no, what would you call that? No top to the cage, and there's no door in the front. The bird just is kind of stuck and sitting in a situation because it's used to it. So it's almost like I like to call this the prison of thought, but this one is also a prison of familiarity. Because it's always been done this way, or because you've always been in a certain space, you think to yourself, this is all there is. No, it isn't. Tip of the iceberg. That's one of the common themes here, is that you're just at the tip of the iceberg. But you have to kind of open up your heart, open up your mind to see beyond. Because with both the 2 and the 8 of Swords, which have blindfolds on them, it's saying that there's more than meets the eye. There's something deeper, there's something different, and it's requiring and it's encouraging you to use your imagination, to take that leap, to go for it, to embrace the dream. Just because no one else can see it, just because you haven't seen it yet, does not mean that it isn't possible. Quite the reverse. But you have to feel it. That's why judgment comes first. So you believe it, you announce it, and then you just take a step away from that prison of thought. Okay? Now let's move into what's coming through in the future. And we have the 4 of Pentacles. We got the devil. Now we have the devil you know. So let me talk a little bit about this, and if I need to pull a different version of it, I will. So I like that she's a little more playful in this version. She isn't so connected or holding on to things, because a sand castle can fall apart and you can just scoop it up and build it right back without much difficulty. But the 4 of Pentacles oftentimes represents either the very beginnings, this is foundational, kind of like what you would see in the Thoth deck, or it can represent holding on to something or someone long past the point at which it's beneficial for either of you. So if you are holding on to someone or something, this is the moment in time to say, thank you for all that you've given, for all that we've been, but I need more. Whatever you want or need, now is the time to advocate for your worth, to speak up and articulate that need, and then to let it go. To let go of whatever it is that you thought was safe, you thought was predictable, because now there's an understanding that this doesn't sustain. In business, don't take an offer that puts you at a place where you have to, you're working so hard that it's sacrificing health and happiness, or you just know it's not sustainable. This is an offer that you can't continue to sort of engage with, okay? In a relationship, this is someone who isn't equally as forthcoming. They're holding back. So if there's someone in your life that's holding back, it's also a time to kind of ask yourself, are they ever going to come around, or are they in this energy of the devil where they just want to control it and rein it all in? Because that's not going to give you what you need. So interestingly enough, that's like the second big block here. I would say the third one is the lack of vision, but don't hold on to something that no longer serves you. You deserve so much more, and there's so many other beneficial cards here in this 60-day period that you're worth more than that, okay? Let's look at the takeaway for this month. So in the month of October, we have taking a step in a new direction. Little tiny child here. This is one of the other children or childlike cards in tarot. Typically, it is a grown-up, but it's the number 0 and it's a new beginning. So anyway, let's look at the takeaway here. One step at a time. In the background, we have a funeral pyre. We have the road that I was talking about from the moon card that's missing. It's actually in this. And we also have something that isn't all that it seems to be. So you're seeing through illusions. You're not giving too much weight to competition or expectations from others. You're going to follow your path to illumination. You're doing it one step at a time. Clean slate. That's the one thing that is really important in the Fool card. I'll pull the traditional one while we're talking, just for comparison. It's cool because this is such an unusual deck, which, by the way, I'll have it linked in the video, but I'm using the Tarot de St. Croix. I like her version of it because she does some just really bizarre stuff that you wouldn't always see, and it gives me new things to talk about when I've read cards so many times. But what I like about the Fool is a couple of things here. And this is going to help you. Don't take with you too many expectations. Don't take the fears. Don't take the worries. Like sometimes if we just allow things to start to formulate, you want a vision, of course, but if you come with too much baggage, it's hard to get the journey started. So breathe and just take it a step at a time without too much fear or expectation. And that will help you. Okay? Calculated leap of faith is also what this is about. Okay, now let's go into the destiny energy. We have the King of Cups in reverse. Of course, this can represent you, but this also is remembering as we exit the 60-day period, not to take on more than you need to emotionally. People love you because you're empathic, because you're kind, because your heart is open, and also ostensibly we have a little Apollo-like dog at the center there because you're loyal. But you need to also feel that sense of support. And if people are complaining or dumping things on you energetically, it can become almost like you need to take a deep breath like I did, too much. Take a step back. Don't take on more than you need. Focus on things like making time in your life for meditation, for exercise. If you need to talk to someone, by all means do that. Self-care is really what is absolutely important. And it's interesting that I almost said impossible. I really want you to focus on believing that it is not only possible, but that you are ready and primed for love and happiness, because ultimately that's what this card represents, is that feeling of being happy, loved, and supported. You absolutely deserve it in this moment in time. All right, we're going to expand this and go a little bit deeper into the energy of health, wealth, and love. All right. Let's give this a shuffle and look at health, wealth, and love. In mind, body, and spirit, we have the Nine of Swords in reverse, trying to find a way to manage stress in a more sustainable way. Because when stress accumulates, what we see happening here can happen to you, which is insomnia. But it isn't just insomnia. For some of us, this can be an inability to concentrate at work. It can be even more dangerous if you're walking or driving and you're not paying attention to your surroundings because your mind is wandering. So, exercise can be beneficial. Talking to a therapist or a friend can be beneficial. But equally as important, if we go back to the catalyst, having a hobby, doing something like sports or activities or anything that's extracurricular can light up that passion and that fire within, and that gives you a sense of hope. And that is the sort of hermit that I was talking about. I'm trying to find the card here on the side. It's the light and the dark, right? So anything that takes you out of all of this other stuff and gives you passion and purpose is going to be important in this period of time, okay? So let's look at everything here. I mentioned, and you can do this at any point in the 60 days, but particularly in September, dealing with fears, anxieties, or addictions, because the devil can represent all of that. And one of the ways that you can do that is through research and knowledge, which the hermit represents. And we have like the hermit's fire or lantern here. The other thing that you want to do is get very real with yourself. Like, accountability is everything. If you need an accountability partner, which can be a therapist or a friend or a coach to help you work out or whatever, find that accountability sort of partner to help you get through some of this. This is in the past. This is like karmic, deep past, and this is like the recent past. Then things start to get much, much better. I get a sense of going through the motions. That's what the Five of Wands can represent. If there's an activity, a relationship, or something where you just feel like you're clocking in and out, this is kind of all connected. You have too much passion and too much good things kind of waiting for you to continue to do that. So ask yourself, is this really what I want? Am I really committed? Does it light my internal fire and passion? Friendships are everything. I really would encourage networking, relationship building, alliances. That's going to help you, especially if you have to deal with something that's a little bit tricky here. Some of you, the devil and the judgment card can represent the loss of someone that you love or an external or environmental factor that's out of your control. This is control, but reversed, it's not in your control. And judgment is deciding what you're going to do about something or someone that you couldn't control. You're going to move into a new path, but it might be uncharted. So in this period of time, again, really making sure that you are figuring out, who am I? What do I want? What am I afraid of? What also makes me really passionate? Self-discovery is a common theme here. I'm looking at health, but I'm getting psychological stuff too. So that's kind of how tarot reading works. You're going to see what you need to see. There is some built up stress, and it's coming through in a couple of ways. So the Four of Pentacles, as we talked about, can be you holding on to stress in a way that it sometimes makes it difficult to breathe, or it's like the upper shoulders, the neck. It's in this part of the body. So stretching, yoga, exercise, therapy, anything that you can do to open up the heart center especially. Eight of Swords, it might be time for your eye or ear exam if you haven't had that in a long time, optometrist or audiologist. You may be in a new relationship and it's a little intense, one step at a time. Broadly speaking, I'm actually quite happy with what I see here. I think it's mostly quality and quantity of sleep and stress management. And then again, letting go of a habit or restrictive thoughts that are holding you back from accomplishing all that you want, all that you need. As we take a look at wealth, you have the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. This card is quite nice. We see a knight in a field of sunflowers, pausing, waiting. It's actually interesting because I say a reverse knight is typically doing that. They're taking a step back and looking at that trail of abundance or work that they've done. Did they accomplish all of their goals? Is the present opportunity or activities around them giving them the sense of fulfillment, engagement, and passion that they still want and need? If not, this is a turning point. This is a chance to pivot. That's a really nice segue into everything that we see here in front of us. So for those of you that are currently employed, we're going to start with you. We have a little bit of a challenge at the beginning of September. The Devil card can represent bad management. It can also be someone that's trying to pull you into a path that is not good. So if you're in a place where someone tries to get you to do something that's against policy, or if you feel like it's just not aligned to either what you want or what you think the company represents, or again, it's just not legal, don't do it, because it's going to not come out great for whoever decides to follow through on that. So listen to your instincts and either put a hard line in the sand and say no, or if you need to get someone else involved, remember what I said here, power in numbers. So talk to some other people, see if it's just you, but I would not do something that feels wrong, okay? That's one thing. Now, completely taking that out of the equation, this is also an opportunity to hold people accountable. Like, let's say for the past couple of years, there's been promises that you might get more money or that you might get a raise. What I see here is someone that can't be trusted on a handshake. You need to get all of that in writing. And if it's been in writing and it's not happening, again, this is organizing with others. There may be some things going on where, if there is a union, what I see here is a strike. And this is not something that you would decide on your own. In fact, you usually don't have a choice. If you're part of a union, you have to do the strike, I believe. But I do see a good outcome in the long run. So work together. Don't do something that doesn't feel right. Protest if you need to, either like figuratively or literally. And then around that, after we go beyond that, what we see is a lot of work getting done. It's worth the struggle here initially because you have a lot going for you. So I feel like if you position something the right way and you're part of a larger group, it can end peacefully. This is a very good card. This is a partnership. This is this is not just the handshake, but this is the contract that you need. So get it in writing. That's a definite takeaway this month. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If someone else says they're going to do something and they don't, hold them to account. Teamwork makes the dream work. Together, we have, again, 3 cards of teamwork. You can get stuff done. Avoid unnecessary competition or conflict. Try to resolve that when and if possible. But be very, very mindful of promises and contracts. Don't sign on the dotted line if you don't understand it. And again, if someone keeps falling short of their end of the bargain, probably get a lawyer involved or someone else to review that, okay? So definitely some things to be highlighted. Connecting these 2 months together, you're creative. You're making some new connections, some really great networking opportunities, possibly even outside of the company. Keep doing that. And then as we move into October, things start to look a lot brighter, a lot more manageable. Whatever this is, it's done ostensibly by the beginning of the month. But you also have a decision to make. If you went through something tricky and even if you resolved it, do you want to stay or do you want to go? This is like a long-term wayfinding energy. And it's where does your heart sit? Where does your passion sort of pull you next? Whatever is going on with your time and energy, make sure that you're getting compensated adequately, because the Four of Pentacles is usually less than enough. And we talked about the importance of making sure that you have enough. For those of you that decided you have 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the door, I totally understand it. Just make sure that you have your plan B. We're in a weird time in the world where it's harder to find work than it used to be. So make sure you have that next job before you walk away. I'll say that much. But if you decide to stay, and if you decide to push through it, stay accountable. Don't do something that you wouldn't feel good about doing. Like, stick to the rules, stick to the law, get things in writing. Make your mind up what you want. Let other people know. Don't do more than you're paid to do. That's the best way to put that. Take care of your emotional well-being. Take a break if you can, okay? And there's more than one thing that you can do. This is about exploring the options. Moving on to those that are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs. It's important to be conservative in shipping estimates, in just about everything, because September presents some challenges when it comes to being able to keep up with demand. And I think it's important for you to have a conservative approach. Also, when it comes to investors, just be honest. If you have a company that's that big, or employees, same thing. Just transparency is everything. Rewarding and treating your employees well can help avoid some of this. This can also represent customer relationships or client relationships that need to be released. So if there's clients that aren't kind of filling the orders correctly, find an alternative. If there are customers that are unhappy, you have to address that. It does look like everything reaches a resolution, but there's a little bit of friction towards the beginning of September. October looks much better. This is true for everybody. In October, you might be launching something new. There may be a settlement or something coming to a resolution, which is good. You want to be conservative on the financial front here. It looks better than what I saw here, but you want to make sure that you're not overspending. Definitely do some things that are, I think you can, like, I'm getting creative economics and also like just creative marketing. Maybe there are some ways that you can lean on existing products and campaigns and things of that nature to kind of bring you through the next 2 months. You may also just take out a loan. So the Knight of Pentacles in reverse is saying, in order for me to get what I need, I'm seeing that there's a need for a little bit more. I'm going to go to the bank, or maybe there's a crowdsourcing opportunity that you can do as well. Somehow finding external finances to help tide you over, okay? These cards are really interesting. So it's so important to follow the letter of the law when it comes to taxation, policies, human resources. Otherwise, it doesn't bode well. So you can't get away with something. Not that that's the best way that I can put it. So do everything by the letter of the law. And if someone doesn't allow you to do that, again, find a different connection. Especially if it's a vendor, just say, no, I think we're going to go somewhere else. If there's an employee that's not doing things correctly, document and get external assistance. Go with an HR professional and get a lawyer. Business overall, a lot of creative energy coming through. There are a lot of happy customers here. Try to leverage them when and if possible to write reviews and sort of be your, share your videos and things like that. So I like that, but there is a big highlight on making sure that you're following rules and policies, okay? For those of you that are job seeking, as we're looking at September, sometimes you're your own worst enemy because there's this feeling of it's not going to happen. Thoughts manifest, so we want to be mindful of that. One option that comes through early in September, they're not putting everything in the job application. Do some research online and see what people have to say about it. Work your existing network. Friends and family and former coworkers can help you make a connection. It feels like October is the month in which you could find something. You may get a final decision. The one thing that I'm looking at here is that there's probably a need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to wages because it's a little bit of a low offer. It's good to have another option and be willing to call your own bluff and go in that direction. About the time you give up on that is when they'll come back with at least an offer that's equal to what you were looking for. It may not surpass, but you should get a little bit more in the realm of like 10% here. Freelance work is coming through for sure. It may be harder to land a full-time job, but I see seasonal or freelance work popping up in October. Okay, for those of you that are students, there's a lot going on in the month of September. There's some stuff that is taking your focus away from school. It could be in family. I mentioned those intimate relationships that might be bubbling up. Something in the family could be going on that's taking your attention away from school. I feel like you find your footing again towards the middle or end of the month. But if you need help, ask. Like, talk to a counselor if you need to. There could also be a class that's just too much. And again, talk to someone sooner than later. Because we're looking at September, ostensibly it's the beginning of a semester. So better to drop it or to change or to transfer at the very beginning. You'll know from day one. Don't wait if it doesn't feel good on that first date. That's why I do these readings in advance. So you'll have plenty of time. If something doesn't feel right, just transfer. Get a different teacher. October looks a lot better. Some of you are having some challenges just with like, how does this apply to what I'm doing in the long run, or what should I do when I graduate? This is a good time to have that conversation because hopefully you're either a full year away or maybe you're just starting out and you have a lot of time to plan. The financial the financial end of this is coming up. So for some of you, costs may be more than you expected, and you're going to have to juggle and decide, can I find, and I do think you can, but are you going to find like additional financial aid or maybe combine a work-study sort of situation where you're getting some compensation or you're working part-time, something like that to add in the equation. Retirees. So Judgment is an interesting card when I look at retirees because it is that realization that life is finite. I never say life is short because I don't like to put self-fulfilling prophecy out there. It's just a realization that now matters. The now and the next matter more than what you wish you could have, would have, or should have done. I actually see this as that, this feeling of regret. It could hit everybody in career, like I wish I had done this or I'd taken this. Okay, so be it. You can do a lot with the energy of now. Don't let the emotions flood you. Be open to opportunities. And what I see here in this moment in time is just taking one step at a time. Definitely some travel for some of you. But allow yourself to imagine something different without worrying about how much it's going to take to get there. What do you want to do next? Put the energy into dreaming and imagining and doing, and then some great things could come forth. Whether you're looking for it or not, by the way, and this is going to be our segue into the next piece, I see new friendships emerging, especially in September. Activities could be really helpful in helping you meet new people. And then it just feels like in your day-to-day travels, you could bump into someone that's a great connection. So we're already talking about it. Why don't we look at love? Three of Pentacles in reverse, nicely connected to what I was just saying. Work, school, and activities. It's a great way to connect with someone. This person is lost in the act of creating, but Three of Pentacles is connected with higher education, with learning. It's also a recognition card, so people recognize you when you're doing something that you love. Here's the traditional illustration. If you were looking for a time where it's perfect for you to go to school or expand your knowledge, take a class, even if you're just auditing it, this is the time. And in doing so, we even see it here. You're going to meet people, classmates, kindred spirits. And so the encouragement is to move forward on that. Let's look at the three different categories in partnership, starting off with those that are in a relationship. I mentioned this. The closest of relationships. Partner, definitely love interest, but it could also just be in your life, someone that you love a lot. I got something coming up from underneath the surface that had been there for a while. And all three of these cards are connected with that. Now is the time to just have the conversation and say, I love you. You're my best friend. Let's just clear the air on this so that we can move forward, because I don't want there to be like bad blood or distance between us when it comes to this. We should be able to resolve it so that we can have a healthier relationship. I'm not a therapist, but that's what I channeled. Talk to a therapist if you need to. It does feel like one or both of you do want to be more honest, but there is this fear or feeling of like, where's it going to go? So create a safe space so that can happen. Take the first step in that direction if you want to, and then the partner has to kind of follow in step. I see busyness, literally lots of bees going around here. You're both are busy bees. There may be some conflict at work or elsewhere in the family, even with one another because of something from the past, but there is a resolution. And it does feel like you get past that. This is like that old song, Do You Know Where You're Going To, from Mahogany. So do you know what the next step is? Where are the two of you together? Make some plans. Talk about your hopes, fears, and dreams together. Okay? And I do feel like you can find your way to the middle ground. But this is also like a clean slate. You can move past this and start fresh if you want to. If someone doesn't come clean, if they don't discuss things, then you can basically decide if that's enough for you. Because you can't force someone to be accountable or to talk, but I also feel like until that's dealt with, it's going to keep coming up. So that's the only thing that I can kind of say with that, is that you have a good chance of resolving it, but it all depends on how you approach it and how open and willing they are. And it could go either way. So just kind of go gently into that conversation. Start saying something like, I love you. I feel like there's some friction here. I'd really like to resolve it so we can just focus on the days ahead, the good stuff, etc. Okay. Work with a therapist. I'm just giving you the working, like the tools here. You can take it from there. What I do like in this spread is I got to find passion somewhere in a love reading. And this is definitely that. There is still an attraction, but it needs to be kindled. It needs to be sparked. And this needs to be resolved, okay? If you're willing to put in the work, that's what this is, then it can be solved. If you're single and looking, can you find love? Yes. So as we're looking at September, there may be a Capricorn that comes through. I don't always judge the devil in a sort of negative category because it can be that sign. But when it's connected to the Seven of Swords, I can say this. If it is a Capricorn, there's something that they're not saying at the beginning of things. They may not be fully out of a relationship. They may not be ready or looking for the same thing that you're looking for. So take it slow. I see something else better coming through. Someone who's in the same resonance and mirrors you a little bit because we have water coming through. So Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. And it starts off in a very good friendship energy, and it could blossom to more. What I also see for some of you is a karmic relationship coming through in October. Unexpected. It comes from a place that you didn't think. But are you open? Are you ready? Because this can be you protecting your heart. One or both of you may be on a rebound. So take it slow in both months. I like October a little bit better. And I keep getting a lot of water. So there could be a water sign coming forth for you. Okay? Where would you meet them? School, work, extracurricular activities. They take note of you because you're doing something that you like. You might be laughing, you might be working, you might be just hanging out with friends at, a club or a bar or something like that. And they see that you are in that resonance of joy, and that attracts them. Single and happy, good for you. If you're single and happy, you can get so much done. September is like off the charts productive, by the way. And then when I look at October, there's a chance to reinvent yourself and to step into something unexpected and really refreshing. And you are free to do that because you're untethered. The challenges that I see for you are keeping it real with your finances, keeping it real with what your own sort of like promises and obligations are, so that accountability is really, really important. But you have a lot of creative passion, a lot of intuition that's coming through. Just follow through on it and you should be fine. All right. Now we have a chance to look at one last question. This is anything that you still need some guidance on. Let me go ahead and give the cards a shuffle. Oh, wow. One just fell out of the spread. So we have a volunteer, but let's go ahead and give it an extra shuffle here. I was like, where did that card come from? Okay. So unbeknownst to me, as I was picking up the deck, we got this. So the Hierophant and the Four of Swords. You have a combined message. As a yes or no, it's yes, comma, but give it a day or two. Sleep on it. The Four of Swords is encouraging you not to rush in, to be slow, to be steady, to make sure that you feel the same way tomorrow. We're getting a little bit of information about the who, the where, the how. The Hierophant is a gatekeeper, and it just flew out of the deck. So someone may come looking for you, and this may take you by surprise because you weren't trying to manifest something, and it just landed in your lap. And this is why I want you to sleep on it, because they may try to pressure you. Pause. Remember, we did get energy like this, so you want to make sure that it's what you want, that they're telling you all of the complete story. Get your questions together, research, and then decide. A couple of other general notes. Rest is necessary. One of the ways that you can get that is by changing your schedule. This is a structured card. The Hierophant is very organized, very traditional, so create some structure, the same time each night, habitual. This is a good habit. Say, all right, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to turn off the devices. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to start turning off all the lights and just get myself ready. And then quantity and quality is important too. Don't force the connection. I will say this. This can be someone who doesn't answer texts, who doesn't write back. If someone isn't giving the same that you are energetically, it's time to move on. Okay? There you go. What a powerful reading. And that was very cool at the end that we got an extra card. All right. If you enjoyed this, and by the way, I hope you did, you can show support in several ways for free, and it really helps me. So one thing that you can do if you're brand new or if you've watched a long time and haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We're close to a milestone, like only 10K away, and hopefully we can get there by the end of the year and we'll do something cool. Hit the thumbs up. That's a great way to signal to YouTube that this was great. And then leave a comment. And because this goes over 2 months, keep me posted as the 2 months progress. Say, wow, this really resonated in September, and I'm starting to see this in October, etc. I would advise giving me a follow on social media just in case notifications don't come through here on YouTube. You can find me at my full username, Nicholas Ashbaugh, on all the major platforms. On Blue Sky, it's nicholasashbaugh.com. That's also my website. On my website, there's all kinds of information about past videos, all the official links and information as well. You can also give back in the form of a sticker or by becoming a member. And that, my friends, is everything. Let's see, Apollo's behind me, so we'll give him one last pat on the head and then wrap up. Hey, buddy. You good boy? All right, guys, thank you so much for being the absolute best part of what I do here on YouTube. Take a look at all of my weekly, monthly, and daily videos, as well as some pick a card videos as well, all on the main channel page. Until I see you again, take care.